That's me. I like to test practices from high achievers. Right now I'm trying to answer a question I've had for a long time. Is waking up early actually as good as everyone says? I mean, so many of the high achievers say that this is the grounding force. But can it help a normal, somewhat lazy guy like me get more done? Or is it just not worth the trouble? So I'm gonna be doing this experiment for the next week. And before I begin, I think it's important to lay down some boundaries or like some ground rules. That way we get consistent results, right? So I came up with 5 and I'll just quickly list them. So number 1 is stick to a consistent morning and evening routine. Number 2, no phone for the first 2 hours of every morning. Number 3, no phone 30 minutes before going to bed. Number 4, get at least 7 hours of sleep every night, even if that means that I have to sleep a little bit later. And the last one, number 5, no caffeine for the first 60 minutes of the day. That comes from Andrew Huberman. He said that you don't get as much of a crash when you don't have caffeine that early. So figured I'd test it out, see if it works. I really hope a result of this is that I stop wasting time in the evenings. I feel like I've been getting a little bit off track with all of that and not being very disciplined in the evenings and just doing useless things with social media, etc. So maybe something dramatic like this will help kind of break that cycle. I decided to go to bed nice and early at 8 p.m. and set my alarm for 4 a.m. and surprisingly fell asleep almost instantly. Maybe that means I'm sleep deprived. I don't know. My routine looks something like this. Immediately after waking, I put my Apple Watch on its charger so it can't distract me. I drink some fiber, and then I spend about 15 minutes planning out my day. After that, I do 30 to 60 minutes of organic thinking or brainstorming for my YouTube channel, and another about 30 minutes of reading, or I write my newsletter during that time. And on this first day, I was really surprised because something really interesting happened almost right away. I don't really know how to describe it, but my mind has been so quiet the last 2 hours. I don't know if it's because the world is still asleep or if it's because it's just dark outside or I haven't had any stimulation of any kind, but I've been in creative flow for at least the last hour. Creative ideas are coming like never before. But now after those 2 hours, I'm really slumping, I'm crashing pretty hard. But man, I got a lot done in the last 2 hours. After around 7 a.m., my energy picked back up again for a few hours, then dropped off at 11, and then stabilized for most of the rest of the day. And while the first day went quite well, other than the 2 hours in the morning, I didn't really notice much of an increase of focus or productivity. The next few days went almost exactly the same, with my routine becoming more consistent. I woke up, worked on creative brainstorming for 1 to 2 hours of peak performance, then for the rest of the day was basically like any other. It's worth noting, however, that those first 2 hours, I was significantly more effective than any other part of the day, and more effective than the first 2 hours of a normal waking day. It is now 7:30 and I am quite ready for bed, which feels weird because it's still very light outside. It's dusk, but it's definitely still light. Right around 7:30 to 8 o'clock, I have this kind of slump where tiredness kind of hits me. But if I don't go to sleep in that 30-minute window, if I distract myself or something, then I catch my second wind, and it's not till 10:30 or 11 till I feel that sleep building up in me again. So if I miss that window, I end up staying up way too late. It's so weird. I've never really experienced creative flow like this before. It's like my mind is just so still. It just doesn't get distracted, which is so unusual. And I don't know if you can hear it or not, but it's raining outside and it's dark and it's just I don't know, there's just something about it that is so magical. All that to say, I'm really enjoying this experiment, even though it is a lot harder to get up in the morning than it is to stay up late. You can't let yourself think in the morning. You gotta just get up and turn your alarm off and turn the light on. You can't sit there and think about it or else it's game over. The one downside I'm experiencing is the drop in physical energy throughout the day. When I did my experiment on becoming a night owl, it was, I had tons of physical energy and I but I felt like my mental energy was not at its peak. So like right now it's switched. You know, I've been awake for a couple hours and I feel like my body needs to sleep for like 30 minutes. And I hate that feeling so much. Like yesterday, for example, I woke up at 4, had amazing flow and creative ideas for like 2 hours, and then promptly fell asleep at 6 o'clock for like an hour. And I just woke up at 7 and I was like, what? Little did I know I was about to experience another downside that might just be a deal breaker. Okay, it's like day 4 and I'm starting to realize that this might not work with my life right now. Like for example, I have a friend coming to visit from out of state and he's gonna be here Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Like, what am I supposed to do? Go to bed at 7:30? No, I'm not gonna do that. Like, my whole schedule just gets thrown out of the window. And there's so many aspects of life that just don't work with this if you want any kind of a social life, at least for me. So this week has been a little bit crazy. So let me give you an overview of some of the results, because just like my experiment with trying to become a night owl, there's some really interesting things here. First of all, physical energy and mental clarity didn't improve at all. What did improve is my creativity. I have been more effortlessly creative this week than I have for a long time. Second thing is that it was surprisingly easy to shift my sleep schedule. It only took about 1 or 2 nights, and the benefits of doing this showed up on the very first morning. And by about the second and third morning, the results and the benefits were very consistent, the benefits of that boosted creativity. However, I will not be continuing this, and here's why. I spend at least 3 evenings a week between playing volleyball, going to church, and hanging out with my friends. For this last week, I've basically sacrificed most of those so that I could do this experiment and do it all the way, right? I wanted to do it 100%. But I'm just not willing to sacrifice those things just because it improves my work abilities. I am really, really glad that I discovered the benefits of creativity that came from this experiment though, because now in the future, if I ever really need creativity for say a large scale project or something, I know that I can set aside a week, wake up really early, and be really, really creative in this specific area. I mean, like almost anyone can make the sacrifices needed to do something like this for a week. Like that's not that hard, but to make a lifestyle out of it, I don't know. And maybe, you know, creativity is not really what you're looking for, what you need in your daily life right now. Maybe you need something more like physical energy or mental clarity or things like that, which was my mindset, you know, when I did the video on becoming a night owl. Like, can doing something like this increase my physical energy, my mental clarity, my productivity? If you want to see the results without having to wreck your life for a little while, I'd encourage you to check out the video that I made on that. I documented the whole process.